Let me ask you about Michael Flynn, another thing the president said. He said that the president said that it was good for Michael Flynn to be in conversation with the Russian ambassador. Did he mean that it was good for him to be in conversation about sanctions with the Russian ambassador when he talked to him about sanctions before the inauguration?
No, that's not what he said, John. I think what he's really referring to is the fact that Michael Flynn, as NSA director, his job is to talk to foreign leaders, yes, including the Russian ambassador and other ambassadors across the world, and other people. Other experts have also said the same thing, that there is not a darn thing wrong with what he's doing by communicating to these other leaders. He didn't get into the
was it wrong for him to talk about
discussed,
sanctions?
Or whether he was saying whether he was telling the vice president the truth or the whole story, or whether he forgot. That's a totally separate issue. But as far as his job of speaking with world leaders, that's what General Flynn was supposed to be doing.
But does the president believe it was correct for him to be talking about sanctions with the Russian ambassador before the inauguration?
The president didn't comment on that. I mean, the point is that there was nothing wrong. What he thinks is that there was nothing. He didn't do anything wrong. There was nothing wrong with talking to the foreign,
was there anything
Russian
wrong about talking to him about sanctions?
The
That's
current
the
sanctions that were being put in place by the Obama administration. I just answered the question.
Oh, so there was nothing wrong. I'm just trying to get a straight answer. There's nothing wrong with having that conversation about sanctions.
No, there's nothing wrong with having a conversation about sanctions, and there was nothing wrong about having a conversation about the fact that the Obama administration put further sanctions in place and expelled some folks out of the United States. There's nothing wrong with that topic coming up in a conversation.
Some people argued that it was an undermining of ongoing U.S. foreign policy by somebody who is not a spokesperson for the administration. One other question on Mr. Flynn. Has anybody asked him whether he had contact with the Russians before the election?
I'm not, since before the election. What do you mean? Before November?
Did Mr. Flynn, before the votes in November, have any contacts with the Russians?
Well,
did anybody ask that?
I think it's been, well, I think he gave a speech in Russia, so he must have had some context before the election.
Did anybody, though?
There's been no specific conversation about that particularly, no.
I just wondered, the president said nobody he knew of had any contact with the Russians during the campaign. And there was a report in the Washington Post that Mr. Flynn did, in fact, talk to the Russians during the campaign. And I just wondered whether anybody had asked him so as not to send the president out with incorrect information.
No, I've never heard that, and I've never heard that he's had any other contacts before the election. I don't think the president has either.
All right, Mr. Priebus, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, John.